Greetings, everybody. I wasn't meaning to make a video today. I'm actually in the middle of doing some working for my home today. You probably see some things behind me here. I've been trying to stock up on ready food, fast food. I'm making some fast food for my freezer, actually. This shelter-in-place order that we're under has really given us a bit of wake-up call for us. We had food in the freezer, but we found that it really wasn't usable. I don't mean it that way. What good does a whole turkey do you in the freezer? What good does an 8-pound picnic shoulder of pork do you? You understand my point. We needed things that were fast, so I've been spending this last week or so making up a bunch, cooking and just getting what I had to get, trying to locate the ingredients that I had to get to come up with some recipes that I could put in the freezer. I have like a half a dozen quiches, I believe I made, because we're also trying to save eggs at the same time, because we're under an attack of eggs from the chickens. And also I did some pizzas. I'm doing pizzas today and freezing them, getting them all ready to bake, pre-baking the crust, and then assembling the pizza and wrapping it up real good. So it's a frozen pizza, but it's a delicious frozen pizza with our own crust and our own pizza sauce from our garden that was canned and some things like that. So anyway, was doing things like that, and while I'm working, I've had listening to some YouTube videos, and at the same time, I had, just with some of the other supplies that were delivered here to the house, I had placed an order, added on to my Amazon Prime order about a week ago, a tarot deck that I have found that I had on my wish list for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't know how it got on my wish list. It had been on my wish list, and I got a notification that the price had reduced drastically. So I wanted to get in there and check it out, and I thought, it's first of all, here, let me tell you what it is. It's the Bonefire Tarot. If you follow some of the collectors here on YouTube, the tarot deck collectors, you've seen this before. And I wasn't sure exactly why I had it on my wish list. So I did a little bit of a search, and I found some people that I really, really respect, their tastes, particularly in decks, talk favorably about the deck. One person particularly was Kelly over Truth and Story. I really usually, our taste seems to run along the same lines in a lot of ways. So I thought, well, the thing that appealed to me also was it is a Rider-Waite, very much a Rider-Waite based deck. But, of course, the illustrations are much different. The illustrations are inspired by, here I'm reading from the back of the book here, inspired by the vintage old school tattoo flash of Sailor Jerry Collins. The it's tattoo illustrations. So they're very interesting. They're very vivid colors and here, I'll hold up one for you. Very, a lot of symbols, a very rich, colorful illustration, but still very much here. This is the King of Coins. So he's still very much the King of Coins in just a very fancy schmancy way. Now, why does that matter to me? Well, one of the reasons it matters to me is that, especially when I read in situations such as at the psychic fair and things like that, where I'm doing a lot of readings real quickly, I like to have, for those public decks, I like to have at least take 2 decks that people can choose from, because not everybody has the same taste in art or in decks. Some people really they'll get off on the Wildwood Tarot, for instance, and the ancient memory of it, and the connection with the land and with the forest, etc., and the animals. And other people do that, they don't like it at all. They like something a little more modern or a little more, retro or whatever they like. So I thought this would be a good, but also the traditional Rider-Waite deck. Well, we love it as tarot readers. We like it, and of course that's what I used for most of my life. Is a little lacking for some people because today people are a little more visually they like visual stimulation. They're used to a lot more visual stimulation, graphic and television and computer images and video games and and something. We got to catch their interest. We got to catch their interest. And sometimes like 3 coins on a card does not really catch interest as much. So, and that's why I'm looking. This is the 3 coins for today. This is my card of the day, by the way, the 3 of coins. And it's a little more. It has some other rich symbols in there. It shows a lot more than just those, the 3 coins. Okay. So I thought this would be good for reading. Okay, I'm making a short story. I want to make long because I want to. This isn't the day I want to make the video. I really intend to go through this deck and just do maybe a reading, see how it reads for me. Because this is not exactly my taste in artwork. I like it a lot. I do like the colors, and I think I will enjoy reading it from time to time, but I'm not going to use this as my everyday deck for sure. But anyway, I was happy to buy it for the most part. Because the book, the book that comes with it is nice. Here's the book. It's a really nice big book, and it has, color illustration of the card, and a nice big long talk about the card. Now, not a lot of depth to the meaning. Not a lot of, my favorite thing is how an author will take have a twist on the 3 of Swords. What do they think about the 3 of Swords? Some new and unusual way to look at it. Added a little bit more meaning to the card, to the traditional meaning. This really does not do that really, but I know enough about these cards that I can talk a long time on each one. I have a lot of, and like I said, there's a lot of symbols on there to draw from. So this was really satisfactory in every way except one. And this is what I want to show you. I got it out. First of all, I got it out of the box. It didn't smell very good. It did not smell good, but that's true of a lot of new cards. They just don't smell good when you get them. And I keep thinking about my beautiful hoi polloi deck, which smells like college to me, because it has all the smells of my college dorm on it. But I done my lifetime really. But this deck sort of smelled, and look how thick this is. Oh my gosh, the cards are thick. They're glossy. Oh, I hated the cards immediately. But the worst thing. Look at this. And I'm trying to stretch my hand as much as I can possibly stretch, and it is killing my hand. Now I have a kind of a big palm, as you can see. It's a big palm, but my fingers are short. They're short, but of course they're far away because of my big fat palm, right? But they're short fingers. I am stretching my hand as hard as I can stretch, and I can barely grip this deck. Okay, and while I'm doing so, it is cutting in to my hands. It's cutting into here, my thumb. It's so uncomfortable, and my finger is just cut. It's very uncomfortable. It hurts my hand to pick them up and try to shuffle them. Then, of course, to shovel them, it's like impossible. Like if I were I riffle shuffle first of all, and here's half of the deck, and if I wanted to just bend this half of the deck, I could bend and bend and bend, and I even have to push down with the other hand, and then I don't have the strength to hold it to get it long enough to riffle. Okay, so maybe we don't want to riffle, so I take it this way. Again, if I do it long ways, I can't even reach here. If I do it sideways, this way, it hurts my hand you see, it hurts my hand. So how do I shuffle? I just can, and because the cards are so thick and the cards are so, the finish on them is a little weird, they would like stick together and it's like clumps. This is not going to get you a good shuffle. Not going to be a good shuffle at all. So when I was using them, I had to shuffle. I would take them apart, and I would, I divided into 3 groups, and I would shuffle each group, and then I would put them together, and I'd take it into 2, and then it took me like 10 minutes to shuffle. That's not going to work if I go out to if I have 15 minutes you know, for each reading out at a psychic fair. I can't take 5 minutes of the 15 just to get a good shuffle on the cards. So that wasn't going to work, was it? And then on top of it, I don't think you can see it, but even when I took it out of the box, there's a little black dots, and I'm sure you cannot see that, but it was, some of the cards were stuck together with like glue on the outside of the cards. So they weren't even packed well. So this was getting a big thumbs down for me right away. It was really giving me a piss poor attitude. I was mad. I'm like, what did I do buying this stupid deck? But I'm thinking, you know, then I look at the pictures again. I think the illustration, I'm like, but the whole reason for me to get them were these rich illustrations, right? And I really want to give it a chance. I want to give it a chance. So while I'm sitting here, this is where my story comes in for today. While I'm sitting here making my crusts and assembling my pizzas for the freezer, I was listening to YouTube, and I did a search for, see what anybody else had to say about the Bonefire, to see if anybody else was having this issue, and lo and behold, somebody came up, and her name is, I have to look here, Red Moon Venus, 3 words, Red Moon Venus, the planet. Her channel, I don't know, she doesn't have very many videos, doesn't have a lot, she doesn't have very many subscribers. She might be a little bit new, but oh wait, this video was from January, so she might be new. I did notice, I looked at some of her other videos, and most of her videos are in French. So that might be why I didn't hear from her before. But I've got a little interest. I'm going to listen to some of her videos. I can understand a little bit of French, and I think we could use, for what I miss, I think we can use a closed caption maybe. But anyway, she was having the same issues, talking about the same thing, her hand, and her point was, if you can't even get a good shuffle on the cards, how are you going to get a good reading? And that's absolutely the truth. And with my attitude, I'm putting negative attitudes into my cards, but, you know, when I'm mad at my cards, it's important to develop that relationship you have with your cards. So I understood completely. So she said, well, I'm going to trim the cards. So I'm looking at the cards and I'm thinking, what can I trim them? Can I possibly trim them? And one thing that's kind of weird on them is they have the Queen of Cups written here, and they also have the Queen of Cups written on the picture itself. So I'm not sure why they have it 2 places. That's kind of silly to me. But they do. But if I just would do that, that would just, first of all, make it shorter. And it's still as fat as it can be. So that doesn't really help too much. But also, if I cut off the bottom, then the back would not be symmetrical. There's a design on the back which is symmetrical, and it says Bonefire, so the reversible, I guess. Bonefire Tarot. So we don't want to mess with that. That would not be very aesthetically pleasing. But what she did was she took a very small trim off of the left and right as much as she could without interfering here. My husband and I worked it out to be about 3/8 of an inch. If we take about 3/8 of an inch, she said, and then off of the top, off the bottom, as close as we can get. She said 3 or 4 millimeters. It turns out to be about 1/8 of an inch. Is about right, about 1/8 of an inch off of the very bottom, and the exact same 1/8 of an inch then off the top would keep them symmetrical. So I think we're going to try 3/8 off of each side, and 1/8 off of the top and the bottom, and see what that makes. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot to me. 3/8 and 3/8 off of the side. 3/8. Is that what we said? I think we said 3/8. No. No, I'm lying. 3/16. It's 3/16. So 3/16 and 3/16 off of each side. It's really a small amount. But my husband is convinced that that's going to make a big difference, at least in how I hold the cards. So I'm going to give it a go. And then on top of it, she has edged her cards, which I like that too. I was thinking about doing that anyway, because I like with these dark cards, I would like a different, I don't like the white edge, which just says Simon over there at Hermit's Cave, he will believe. If he listens to this and he hears that he's turned me on to edging my cards on top of it, it might be pretty funny. Because I used to think that was kind of silly, but now I like it. I kind of like it. So, even old dogs can learn new tricks, right? So anyway, I'm going to break here. I didn't want to make this part long because I wanted to talk to you about the cards itself. But when I come back in a few days to do the actual, I'm going to try to do a little reading with the cards and see how they read. And then I will let you know how it worked out, trimming the cards, if that made a difference for me. Okay, I hope so. And if you have experience with the Bonefire Tarot, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Okay? All right. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm back. It's a freezing day today, and I'm sitting in my kitchen doing a lot of things, but I wanted to show you I did the deed. I did the deed. I got up the courage, and I trimmed my cards. And I want to say again, I really want to say this. I don't want to talk you into doing this. I'm going to say it right now. I don't want to talk you into doing this. This has to be something you do or you don't do. Everybody's different. Because I want to say, if it's going to make a big difference to you or not. Because, well, I'll show you why. I'll show you why I'm going to say that. But am I happy that I trimmed the cards? This is the first thing you're thinking. The answer is yes. I am happy that I trimmed the cards. Why? Because now if I have a deck and I pull it up, I hold the deck up. The deck is much better in my hand. I can actually put my thumb around the card, around the deck. And I can't reach it very well. It's still really, because it is so thick. This is the difference between the thickness in this deck and my Enchanted Forest deck. I don't know if you can see this with me holding it up. It was a bit of a difference, right? It's a bit of a difference. Wait. I really suck at this. And my husband's across the table from me, probably looking at me with judgment. They can't see that. But anyway, it's a big difference. And these are thick. These are, it's a thick deck, a little thicker. But these are, the difference is, the cardstock is not so stiff. And I'm able to, if I reach, when I want to shuffle, I can reach, and I can reach it, and then I can shuffle. This is half the deck. And this is half the deck. This is half the deck. And you see, I can shuffle. But this deck, no matter what I do, to cut it in size to hold it, I'm not going to be able to ever bend this to riffle shuffle. It's not going to happen. So that's okay. It's okay, because I know a lot of people get by without riffle shuffling, and I can change. I'm an old dog, but I can change some of my tricks, learn some new tricks, and I can learn. But at least now it's a smaller deck, so I can do this, and at least I can get a hold of the deck. And I have found that the more I have handled the deck, that odd, weird, glossy, whatever the glossy covering on the outside was, that was causing the cards to stick together, is working its way out. The more because I was dividing the deck up into like thirds and shuffling thirds, riffle shuffling thirds, and then putting it together. A lot of the finish, they're more, they're not quite so stiff, is what I want to say. But it's not enough to make a difference in the shuffling, except for I'm able to get my hand around it. I can hold on it, and this way, when I'm holding in my hand, it's not cutting into my thumb here or my finger, because it's just so big, because I'm not so taxed to pick it up. So that, in that way, positive. Negative. The negative is, in order to make it worthwhile trimming it at all, and I want to say I barely trimmed. I trimmed Remind me, what did I trim? I trimmed 1/8 of an inch.
1/8 inch top and bottom, 1/4 inch on the sides.
Okay, I trimmed 1/8 inch off of the top and the bottom, which is what I could do and not disturb the word on the bottom, and 1/4 inch off of each side. So I reduced it only by a 1/2 inch in length, 1/2 inch this way, and a 1/2 inch. I'm not making any
1/2
sense.
inch on the width.
1/2 inch on the width this way, and 1/4 inch top to bottom. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to make a difference for my hand. Okay, but in doing so, I wanted to keep the design in the center. I wanted to keep that centered, but in doing so, even with that 1/8 of an inch off the top and the bottom, and the 1/4 of an inch off each side, it cut into. Can you see the words Bonefire Tarot on the top and the bottom? It cut off the very edges of the letters. See the T at the end of Tarot or the B at the end, at the beginning of Bonefire are cut into. So it has marred the writing. But when you look at the deck, when you just hold up the deck and you look at it, or the card, you just look at it, overall, it looks nice. I mean, those words, that's not why we have them. We have them for this, right? Not for this. This is a bonus. We like to see this, but this is the part we read, so this is the part we care about. And as it comes down to it, I love the way the deck looks trimmed. I love to see the images. They really, it's like when you, I don't know if when you take pictures, I'm like a compulsive cropper when I take photographs, that I have to crop pictures all the time. I'm always cropping because I want to see, look at this, how it just pops, the design pops so well, and you're still able to read the word at the bottom, even though the word's not necessary, because this is a 9 of Cups. It says 9 of Cups somewhere else on the card within the design. So this is sort of redundant, but if I would have cut that off, it would only made them short and stocky, and it would have messed up the centering on backs. So that was not really an option for me. But the crop really gave it a lovely, it made the design really come out. You know, really, really, really. I'm very happy. How many times can I say really? I'm very happy with the way it looks. It's very colorful. You know, and I could tell right away when I was cutting it. I just had to go for it and do the first cut. Of course, I had my husband here beside me, and he's like checking all my cards and helping me hold it in the cutter, because he knew if I messed it up, there'd be no living with me. I'd be really regretting that I had done it. But I am so happy that I did. I'm really happy that I did it. Okay. And then I went ahead, as you can see, I went ahead and I put an edge in on the back. Because even though, I think I said that right away, when I showed the deck initially, I'm not sure, but I love it having the dark edges. Again, that's personal preference. You know, I used to be opposed to this kind of thing, and when I saw Simon, for one, over at Hermit's Cave, used to say, oh, he liked to change them. He used to change a lot of his decks, and of course a lot of other people that I have been watching do the same. And I was always sort of opposed to that, to altering my deck, but I can really see why in some cases it's done. And I really think in this, because you have such a dark back and you have such dark background, and boy, when it has that black on the edge, it just is really sharp. I think it looks sharp. Which is what I did it with, Sharpies. Those big chisel tip Sharpies. Permanent ink. They're Sharpies, right? Yes. I'm not talking to myself, that's my husband I'm talking to. He just doesn't answer because he's sort of shy. Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So you know I'm not crazy talking to myself. Okay, so that's that, and I did it. I'm happy I did it, but I'm going to say again, do not do yours if you don't want to. You know, it has to be a personal choice. It can't be because I did it, because I don't want anybody saying, I cut them and You made me cut them and you cut off the words. I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible for that. Okay, now what is next? Okay, so I like the handling of them better. I really like the images a lot, which I think I did from the beginning, but I like the images more now that I cut them. So what was the next step? The next step is, and you will see that in my next video that I put up, I actually did a reading, a sample reading, one of the readings in the book. In the back of the book that comes along with the deck, there's a reading in the back called, I don't know what it's called. I don't know. I'll find it. But anyway, I did a reading with it to make sure that I was going to keep the deck. Because isn't that the bottom line? If we can't read with the cards, like if why use them? Why use them? Why keep them if I don't like the way they read? I wasn't really able to get a good reading off of them before I cut them because I didn't like them. They were uncomfortable in my hand. They did not feel good. I could hardly shuffle them. I didn't like anything about them, really. I cut them and I edged them and I started to really like them. So I thought, I'm going to try a reading to make up my mind. I'll try one reading. So I did a reading and it came out really well, and I'm going to share that with you. I have not recorded it yet, but I have completed. I'm going to walk through the reading with you, how I did it, which I think some of you will like. So I've determined I'm going to keep the cards. Now that should be the end of it, but I want to take a few minutes to say it is not the end. I had to cut there, and I'm not sure what I was saying, so I just want to start again here. The cards have been trimmed and the cards have been edged, and I'm really happy with them. And now I've determined that I'm going to keep them. But before I can keep them, there is a very important step that I'm going to do, and I want to make sure that everybody hears this step, because to me it's very, very important, and I will tell you why. I'm going to share something personal with you, but I've already shared a photograph. I put a photograph up on my website of a spell that I had working that included the contents of this bag. Now it's in this bag. And I'm not going to go into really the exact spell, but I want to tell you that you might be able to see in the bag on top of, there's a couple things in the bag, but what's on the very top of the bag is a cord, a silver cord. And if you go on my website, you might find that photograph there and be curious as to why I have a silver cord on in that photograph, okay? And I'm going to tell you why I have it. And you might have realized that you haven't heard me talk about the Wildwood Tarot really, or use my Wildwood Tarot cards for a while. And one of the reasons, actually the main reason that I haven't been using them lately, is I am ashamed to say it, I cannot find them. Now that sounds horrible. It might sound more horrible than it really is. I want to remind you that as horrified as I am that I can't find them, we have been going through a little bit of an adjustment in this house. That we had a major reorganization, remodel effort in the house where we were taking the contents of 4 rooms and switching everything around and reorganizing everything. And so in order to do some of the rooms, a lot of things were taken and put elsewhere, and included my parlor where I keep my tarot cards reading. And also because we were using the parlor and reorganizing the parlor, I was using a lot of the kitchen for a lot of things, where I would bring things out into the kitchen and use them here at the table in my workspace, and then I would take them and put them away. In that process, you all know this kind of thing happens. The tarot cards went missing. And I know they're here somewhere. We're just about down to the end. I'm not sure where they can be, because I don't recall them I don't know why they wouldn't be in the house. I don't believe I took them away. The details are not important, but what I want to say to you is, I know people lose things and people misplace things, and that happens, that's inevitable. But what I want to say to you is, I have felt nothing but regret and remorse, because I neglected when I got the Wildwood Tarot in the first place. I neglected to do something that I usually always do with my cards, with all the cards that I purchase. And that is, I did not tie them to me. I did not technically tie them to me. And I always have tied my cards to me if I'm going to be, especially if I'm going to be taking them out of the house. But I started it years ago with my hoi polloi deck, that it was tied to me. I tied that to me, and I still have the cord that I used. It's stored in with the deck, and the deck is stored in a wooden box. First, the deck is in a bag, in a black bag, in a silk bag, inside a wooden box, and the cord that I use to tie it to me is stored with it, so that it is always kept. It is always kept with the deck. The deck is always with me, and that deck I do not ever take from this house. It doesn't ever leave the house. Now that I go out, though, and do take cards from time to time to psychic fairs and elsewhere, and sometimes I take them camping with me, etc. I do tie my cards. The Wildwood I never tied to me. And I don't understand why I didn't, because it was the first deck I think I ever took with me anywhere. And I don't know why. I think it's because I put it in to use so quickly that I didn't really take the time that I needed. I think I put off tying it to me, and then I forgot. That's what I want to say. So whatever the reason, I don't have it anymore with me. I can't find it. And this silver cord now is a part of a spell that I'm doing to pull that deck back to me, to help me find the deck again. Give me some insight what happened to the deck. If it's possible to get it back, it'll come back. If it's not possible, I will remember why it's not possible. That's what this is about. Give me some kind of closure. Hopefully I will get it back, because I love the deck. You know how much I love it. I'm really saddened by it. I'm really, really sad. And as a result, you know, I think I'm harder on some of my other decks, because those other decks that are trying to take its place, I'm like, you can't take the place of the Wildwood. I love the Wildwood, you know. So I was sort of holding back a little bit from that. But anyway, I'm not going to let that happen to this. I'm going to tie it to me right away. And what do I mean by saying tie it to me? Well, first of all, it's going to be purified. If I'm going to keep the deck, I'm going to purify it. And my husband was just talking to me about this. And it is, yeah, it's taking some of the ick off of it. You remember it had a bad smell. I didn't like the finish. When it comes right from a publisher, it doesn't have my stuff on it. It doesn't have me on it. I want to get my energy on it, but I want to remove the other stuff first. I want to remove some of that stuff that's really keeping me from feeling close to the deck. So I'm going to do a purification. I'm going to cleanse it. I'm going to cleanse it through smoke. I always cleanse with smoke. I cleanse with water. I cleanse with earth, and I cleanse with air. Okay. I cleanse with all of the elements. And in doing so, I also ask the elements, as I'm cleansing, it's not just a matter of cleansing them, but asking the elements to ensure that no unwanted influence will come over my cards. Okay? And that's a really important thing. And I'm taking this, by the way, from my Book of Shadows. And I want to say, this is the kind of thing that goes in a Book of Shadows. These kind of little, whether they're spells or whether they're, you know, information, bits of information that you collect that you really like, that works for you. It doesn't have to be a Book of Shadows, but write it down somewhere. Keep it somewhere safe. So if you have that same need arises again, you have a way to get to it. Okay, so that's what I have in this book. One of the things I have in this book. Anyway, when I do that, I first bind the deck. I tie a black thread, any kind of a black thread, because black is protection to me. It doesn't have to be a black thread, but that's a good way to start. I will tie up some kind of a black string or cord or yarn or whatever I have around the deck, and then I will state that this is my deck. It is my deck. It is tied to me, and no other influence, any unwanted influence, will ever hold influence over this deck other than use to be used by me, right? When I take them out in public and I'm in a psychic fair or I'm in a parking lot somewhere, or I'm at a war somewhere in the middle of the high desert or wherever I am, that this deck is going to be speaking to me. This deck is going to be answering questions that I ask it. It's not going to be influenced by the hundreds of people that are there at a crowded situation or whatever. Okay, so that's what I mean by tying it to me. But also, so that if something like this happens, like I put it down in the wrong place for some reason, I can get it back easily. It's taking me a long time. It's taken me quite a while and a lot of effort. Now, I'm not even finished with this. This is only the first part of this spell. But I have it in place, and I'm keeping this bag with my cards that I'm using all the time. Okay? Whatever cards have been used. It's been sitting here with my enchanted forest cards, my forest of, what did we say the name of this deck was? I want to use the correct name because the author...
Forest of Enchantment.
Yes. You know, I think my husband should be doing this video. Why do you have all this
No.
knowledge and I do not?
No,
I can't remember it at all.
I should not be doing this.
I must just hear me. The Forest of Enchantment Tarot, I want to say. But that's the one I was using all through March. So this has been with this deck. And once I put this deck into use, get it cleansed, and tie it to me, I will then put the bag and keep it with this deck that I'm using, okay? And then hopefully, and then I'm going to complete the rest of this spell. And I'm hoping that I'm going to get my Wildwood Tarot back. I'm really hoping. Okay. So anyway, that's just a little thing I wanted to share with you because it's a part of the housekeeping that we mentioned. You know, so often I'm saying there's a lot of housekeeping that goes along with if you want to call yourself a witch, you've got an obligation and responsibility to keep that, you know, to work at your job, to make sure that you're doing the best job you can do as a witch. And so you have to keep up. You have to keep your tools sharp and your you know, your cupboard stocked and your whatever, you know, whatever, your book of shadows at hand so that you can get the information that you need. Okay, so this is a part of it. Anyway, if anybody gets the tarot deck, I'd like to know if you have it, if you trim it, but not because I trim it, remember, but if you're going to trim it or not trim it. And if you've trimmed other decks. I mean, I don't see a lot of other tarot readers playing with that kind of thing, and I'd be very interested. Okay? So stay tuned. If you're interested in, I'm going to do a couple readings coming up with this deck, share a couple of things to show you how it reads. And so stay tuned if you're interested in that. And I've got some other things in the work too. If you're not, if you're just a subscriber who wishes I would talk about something other than tarot, I'm going to be putting some things up pretty soon for you too. Okay. Anyway, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'm Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.